Hello and welcome everybody. Appreciate you joining us today. Number one, there'll be, I can see already a number of Sales Nexus customers that are already familiar with the Sales Nexus system in the crowd, but also I believe some people who are not Sales Nexus users at this time. And so I just want to preface everything and let everybody know we're not going to be getting too in detail in terms of how to do things in Sales Nexus. My hope is that what we're going to cover today is useful even if you're using some other tool or haven't started using anything for email marketing or whatever. So don't worry if we talk a little bit about Sales Nexus. The important details will be useful no matter what. It looks like a lot of people have found the chat. If you haven't, make sure you do find it. That's going to be your way to ask questions. We'll be keeping an eye on what you put in there and try to respond to the questions as they come in. Because our intention here today is that this is going to be a masterclass. I'm going to try and take it slow and really let you guys guide me, because my assumption is that everyone here today has been doing some email marketing already and knows the basics already. So if you do not, don't worry. I got a couple of things for you that should help. But the content we're going to cover today is more, sort of intermediate level. And primarily what I'm hoping to do is share with you guys some things that, we've been learning with our clients over the last year or two. There's a lot of things that have changed in the email world. Some of those things directly impact how you can have success with your email campaigns. So we want to really make sure you guys are up to speed on that, know how to use that information and what to do to be successful. Okay, so let's start off with, I got a poll that we're going to do. So now I got to figure out how to share it with you. Bear with me a sec. Oh, here we go. Sorry. You should see that now. And if you guys can just put in your answers there, just want to know, sort of what topic you're most interested in learning about today. Do you guys see that, or did I not do that right? Okay, good. Yeah, so let me know which topics you want us to focus on, and we'll try to focus our time today in those areas. Let's see here. I'm not seeing any answers going in yet. Okay, while y'all are doing that, I'm also going to publish here a few PDFs they're going to be in the little handouts section there that you'll see next to the chat, I think. And these are especially for those of you who are maybe a little, more on the beginner side in email marketing. These are guides that we put together specifically for you, how to design your first email template and sort of what matters and what doesn't, how to create a campaign, an ongoing drip campaign, and, how to get the messaging right. How to design your CRM to manage your list for your email marketing campaigns. So hopefully those will be helpful to some of you. And yeah, I don't know why, but I'm not getting the feedback on the poll. I don't know what I did wrong there, but I can't see your answers. So, well, we're going to move on. Let's see. Russia's joining me. She's kind of in the background helping go through your questions to make sure we we pull out the most common and important ones and address them. And you guys know who I am. I'm Craig, the CEO of Sales Nexus. And again, thank you all for joining us. Let's see. Today, what we're going to cover, just touch on real briefly some of the basics, like I said, that you kind of should already know. Then we're going to get into some basics on just optimizing your campaign performance using analytics. We're going to talk a little bit about spam filters because there's been a lot of change there recently, and you need to know about that and how that affects your sender reputation. I'm going to get a little technical and show you how you can actually look at the message header in an email and actually see what's happening in terms of if you're having some spam issues and things like that. We're going to talk about building lists and good techniques for that, and cleansing lists too, which is also really important relative to the changes that have taken place in the junk filter world. And then managing engagement. Again, this is something that's becoming much, much more important. And then automating your campaigns. So kind of a lot to cover, but some of this we won't get too detailed on because it gets kind of technical. I just want to sort of bring it to your attention so you know it's something to keep your eye out for. Oh, and I see, it looks like when I created that poll, I forgot to put a submit button in it. Who knew that you had to do that? But anyway, I apologize for that, guys. If you want, maybe just put in the chat here if there's a specific topic that really that was on that poll that you really want to hear about, then let me know. I'll kind of keep an eye on that. Okay, so I just put that email template design guide out there. There's a lot in there that'll get in depth on how to design an email template. But just for those of you who may not be experts yet, in terms of designing your email, less is more. That's the number one mistake I see people making, is it just too much in your email. You don't need to write a whole blog post. It doesn't need to be 500 words. In fact, even 100 words is too many. Keep it short. Think about how you read your own email. You don't have a lot of time for marketing emails. You're going to look at it, and in 1 or 2 seconds, it's either delete or, oh, I want to, click on this and do something, right? You're in a hurry. So keep it short. Keep the images small. They have to load on your mobile device, most importantly. And if you don't have a great internet connection when you're on the road or whatever, that loading time, that just degrades the experience of the reader. So, keep those images small. Make sure you don't upload a 2 megabyte file. It might look great, but it's not going to be a great experience for the reader. Use videos. Videos get twice the clicks that images get, or links. So if you got video, use it. It's well worth it. It's worth investing in creating videos. And optimize for mobile, as I touched on a minute ago. Over 50% of your emails will be read on a mobile device. So you definitely need to be looking at, what does this look like on a phone? Don't only look at it on your desktop computer or your notebook and go, oh, it looks great, because it may not look great on a phone. Double check it on a phone. Okay, subject line. You got to speak to the customer's needs. Don't talk about yourself. That's the number 2 mistake that I see people making, is the language in the email itself and in the subject line, most importantly, is just, we have this great product, or save 20% on our great stuff. I don't care. I don't need to save 20%. I don't need to spend any money, right? That's the way you should think about it. Make me want to spend some money. Make me need what you have. Talk to my problems, my needs. And avoid spam words. Words like free and cheap and money and cash and stuff. Those are just big, huge triggers for the junk folders. It's going to get you sent right into the junk folder. Then on your call to action, give them a reason to click. Don't just try to sell them in the email. That's number 3 mistake that I see people making, It's an email that's maybe well written and everything, but at the end it says, if you'd like to learn more, let me know a good time to call you. So what you're expecting them to do is hit reply and send you an email and say, hey, Bob, I would love to learn more. Please call me at 3:00, right? Not very many people are going to do that. What they want to do is click, go to your website, check you out a little bit, see if you're legit, it's not a scam, etc. So give them a reason to do that. Direct them to where you want them to go on your website. Put a button in there. Make sure all of the links throughout the email are all pointing to that same place. Don't give them 10 different links that send them in 10 different places. That doesn't help you really get results from your campaign. Okay, so that's kind of the basics. We're going to assume that most of you guys already sort of knew that stuff. Just a little further point on the messaging. What I see people doing all the time is things like this. We're offering 20% off on blah, 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 right? Well, maybe that is what your email's about. You're offering a discount, but say it differently. Say your next vacation just got 20% better, right? Now you're making me think about my vacation. Okay, now I'm interested, right? That's the principle. Okay, let's talk about analytics. I'm going to keep it pretty simple. Happy to answer questions that anybody has, but at the end of the day, there's benchmarks in email. There's millions and millions of emails getting sent around every day, right? Your inbox is full of them. And so we know statistically that 10 to 20% of your marketing emails get opened, right? That means 80 to 90% never get looked at. The person that received it never even looked at it. So that's important to know. And 1 to 2% of those emails that get looked at get clicked on to come to your website or sign up or whatever. Yeah, and I see a couple of people asking, you will automatically get a recording of the webinar. So that'll go out, I think, tomorrow around the same time with a link to the recording. And then bounce rate, you need to keep an eye on that. That's something that's really, really becoming more and more important. You want to keep it less than 0.5%. Meaning if you have a list of 100 people, you shouldn't have more than 5. Wait, no, you shouldn't have any incorrect emails on that list. If you have 1,000, you shouldn't have more than 10, right? More than 5. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble doing math, but you get the point. You want to make sure to clean the bad emails off of your list, because when you send out your blast, tools like Sales Nexus are going to, once that email bounces, it's an incorrect email, and so our server figures that out, and it's going to make sure you don't send them an email the next time. But you've already damaged your reputation by sending out too many, sending your email to too many bad emails. What's happening is all of the junk folders, Google and Outlook, they're seeing that and they're going, oh, well, clearly these guys are sending to some email list of people that they don't even know. Otherwise, they wouldn't have such a high percentage of incorrect addresses. That's what's happening. Yeah, Joel's asking about how do we clean the list, and we're definitely going to get to that here in a minute. Okay, so let's talk about spam filters for a minute, because this is what's really changing and evolving, and it's evolving sort of every day now. And you just kind of have to stay up with it and at least be aware of what's happening. Number one, I forget now, but it's something like 75, 80%, especially in the business world, of your emails are getting read in Gmail or Outlook. So that the way they're algorithms work in terms of deciding what goes to the junk folder, that's what matters, So really what you ought to do, if you're really serious about email marketing, is you ought to have yourself a Gmail account and an Outlook account. And when you're putting your emails together, send it to those addresses and see what it looks like. Make sure it's not going in the junk folder and all of that stuff. There's other ones, Spam Assassin is a big one. That's kind of like it's the default that comes along with one of the most popular mail server program. So when a company is setting up their mail server, a lot of times Spam Assassin will be the default junk filter that goes into the corporate mail server. But there's a lot of other ones. And there's ways to monitor, are these different spam filters putting your email into junk? We do that, for our customers. But you just need to be aware of it and know that it's not just a yes or no. There's Google, Outlook, Spam Assassin, and 100 other spam lists and spam filters that your customers might be using, and they're all going to affect those individual customers. So you're going to have varying results all over the place. So the first thing, the most important thing that they're all looking at is just the very simple, simple is probably the wrong word because I still get confused. It's very detail-oriented, technical stuff, but it's the basics. Setting up DMARC and DKIM and SPF. This is stuff that your mail service provider should help you with, like SalesNexus. And you want to make sure that you address that when you sign up to a new service. They may have in their little setup process, they may have an option for that. Don't skip it. It's really important. What all of this is doing, without getting into the technical details, is it's essentially you as the brand, the marketer, the company, saying to all of these mail servers and junk filters, these emails that are being sent by this other service, SalesNexus or some other email sender, these emails that SalesNexus is sending for you are officially blessed by you. SalesNexus is not spoofing you or scamming you or something like that, right? So you're just saying that these, even though I as a company have this mail that we're also using this other service for our marketing emails, and it's officially ours, right? So treat those emails like they're ours. That's the simple way to think about that. And these things probably matter more than anything else in terms of getting into the inbox. And then there's domain alignment. It's a little detail, but it can really sync your results and put a lot of your emails into the junk folder. What this means is within the email itself, you've got all these different places that these spam filters can look at your domain, right? There's your from address. It's, bob@yourcompany.com, right? Then there's the link in your email. It takes them to your website. That should be yourcompany.com, right? What I see some people doing is they'll have, bob@gmail.com will be their from address. And then the link in the email itself will be yourcompany.com. And then they'll have another link over here that's, this other company.com. And all of that, those different links say to the spam filters, this is looking a little scammy. So it's another sort of strike against you that can increase the number that go in the junk folder. So you want to have the same domain in all of those links and emails and everything else. That's really important. Now, finally, phrases. There's a lot, I can't cover it all, and it's there's no definitive list, but essentially, now they're using AI to figure out what looks like a scam or something like that, number one. But also, you as an individual, if you're using Gmail or Outlook, they're using AI and learning what you think is spam, right? So the important thing is just stay away from phrases that could be misinterpreted as some, in some sort of a scammy way, or, adult content or something like that. Things that involve money, cash, free, that kind of stuff. Be careful about that. And then finally, there's the reputation of your domain. Like we talked about, all the domains within the email. If you don't have domain alignment and you got 3 or 4 different domains represented in your, that's what's going to be used, right? So that's another reason to focus on that domain alignment. But you got the reputation of the domain itself, yourcompany.com, and separately the reputation of the IP address of the mail server that's sending the mail. So those are 2 separate reputations that you got to keep your eye on. So how do you do that? Well, there's a lot of different tools that we use. Like in the case of a SalesNexus customer, what we're really talking about is the reputation of SalesNexus IP addresses and your domain's reputation, right? Well, you can track your domain's reputation in different ways. Like I would highly recommend checking out Google Postmaster. I think if you just go to postmaster.google.com, you can what they think of your domain reputation. And so that's a pretty good place to start, and it's relatively easy to get started with. But if you're having significant problems, or here's the thing that I see most often from customers that indicates we got a reputation problem, is they'll say, we were sending some emails through some other service and we did something went wrong. And now my regular emails that I'm sending, just one-on-one with customers, those are going to junk. That tells you right there, you got a reputation problem with your domain, probably, but maybe possibly also with the IP address. If that's what's happening, then you got to start working on your reputation. Fixing your reputation is not easy. So the real key is just don't do all these things that I'm saying not to do. Follow these best practices, and you shouldn't have an issue. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but they're using AI to wait, I lost my screen, didn't I? Hang on. Okay. They're using AI to see how people are interacting with your emails in real time. So like as your email blast is going out, you got thousands of emails going out tomorrow morning. As the first few people get those emails and start opening them and clicking them, Google and Outlook are looking at what is the percentage of opens and what are the percentage of clicks and what's the percentage of bounces and opt-outs and people marking it as spam and all of that. And that will affect the delivery of the rest of that, those thousands of emails. So it's happening in real time. They're keeping an eye on all of the interactions that your recipients are having with your emails. So that's why you have to not only take care of these sort of spam related things, but the open and the click rate is also really important. Okay, so let's see. I kind of covered this earlier. Your sender reputation is affected by all the things we talked about earlier, but also, of course, when people receive your emails, if they mark you as spam in Google, let's say, or Outlook or whatever, then that affects your reputation. That affects your reputation within that ecosystem. So if I get your email in Gmail and I mark it as spam in Gmail, then Gmail's using that information, but it doesn't mean it's going to affect how I get delivered in Outlook, for instance. But like I talked about, they're going to look at your bounce rate and your engagement, meaning what percentage of people are opening and clicking, the domain reputation of both the brand, and your service provider, your email service provider. One way or the other, their domains are also going to be within your email when you really look at the source of it. And so that reputation matters too. And then there's the IP. One little, that's the sort of numeric address of the actual server on the internet. One thing to keep in mind, some email service providers have static IPs and some have dynamic IPs. Static IP means your emails always come from the same IP address. So that one reputation is what matters to you. Some have dynamic IPs, meaning you might send an email today and it's this IP address, and send an email tomorrow and it's a different IP address. So those reputations are going to change. So ideally, if you're a really high volume sender, what you want is a dedicated IP address, meaning your email comes from one IP, a static IP, and only your emails come from that IP. In other words, other customers are not sending from that same IP. So the reputation of that IP is essentially your reputation. Your reputation or your email delivery is not suffering as a result of other companies' behavior, if that makes sense. Okay, so Joel's asking if Sales Nexus is static IP. Yes, we are. And if you need it, we do have some services where we can provide you with a dedicated IP. Getting a little technical here, but just want to show you. In fact, let me see if I can pull this off here real time on the internet. I'm opening up. Okay, I'm in Gmail here. And this is an email I received, a marketing email. In Gmail, if you go over here to the little three dots and you say show original, that's how you'll see this message header. That's where you can see what's happening with your email. Let me go back to the slides there. And let's see. I think I'm on the right slide. Anyway, you can see right here, it says DKIM passed, SPF passed, etc. And if I go to the next slide, whoops, go back one. You can see right here, here's one where the SPF says soft fail. I don't know exactly what that means, but it didn't work, right? And so that tells you, okay, if your emails are starting to go to the junk folder, that's probably why. So when you first start to see that problem, that's the thing to do, is send it to yourself in Gmail and Outlook, and then go and look at the message header and see what you're seeing here. Look for where it's grading you on the DKIM and the SPF and stuff like that. And also, if you're getting sort of thrown in junk by some kind of spam filter, it will usually say that. And sometimes give you some useful information about why. So that's just a quick and easy way to check and see what's going on here. Now, let's talk about cleansing. So, like we've talked about, sending to a list of bad email addresses is the fastest way to get yourself into trouble. So, we want to cleanse the bad email addresses off of your list before you send to it. Some people think that, the simplest way to do it is, I'll just load my list of 1,000 people into Sales Nexus, send out my first email, and whoever bounces, bounces. And then from then on, I won't be sending to those bad addresses. That's not smart because you've already damaged your reputation by doing that. So what you do is you cleanse it first. There are services out there that will take your list, and every single email address, they'll ping that mail server and say, hey, is this a valid email address? And the mail server will tell us something about it. And they also maintain a list of things like spam traps and bots and complainers. So let me explain what that means. So a spam trap is just an address that a spam filter is using to find spammers, right? So in other words, they might put it out there on some internet page, and people that scrape the internet for email addresses to build their list, they'll start emailing to that email address. And there's no legit reason that you would be emailing that address, right? So as soon as you send an email to that address, boom, you go on their spammer list, right? That's what a spam trap is, essentially. A complainer is somebody that frequently marks your emails, marks the emails they receive as spam. So you kind of want to avoid those guys. And then a bot, that's just some kind of a automated thing that's not a human. So you probably don't want to email them anyway. And it can, again, affect your spam score, so to speak. And then you see undeliverable. Those are the bad email addresses. Just don't send to those, right? So these are, just some lists that we have cleansed ourselves recently, and the results that you see, 30% undeliverable. I should have probably had the list to show you. If you look at that list, there's no reason you would think 30%, this has got to be a bad list. But sending to 30% bad addresses, man, that's going to just tank your reputation overnight. Let's see, even 5% is going to have a negative effect. I don't want to spend a lot on catch-all and stuff, but everybody always asks about it because it's one of the results you get. Essentially what it means is the company's mail server is set up so that no matter who you send to, you can send to Shirley at thiscompany.com or Mike at thiscompany.com or XYZ at thiscompany.com. And it's going to receive all of those emails. So there is no such thing as a bad email address for that particular mail server. And usually they have rules that, like, when an email comes in that's not an official person, route it to the info at mailbox or something like that. So it's not ideal to send to those, although as you can see, a lot of times it's a pretty big percentage of it's becoming more and more common. And so a lot of times you kind of have to. But what I will show you guys here real quick is what you can do. Oops, I got logged out. Bear with me a sec here. I'm going to show you how you can cleanse your list. So in Sales Nexus, you can do this yourself. There, as I mentioned, there's a lot of third parties you can look at too. Just Google, email list cleansing. In Sales Nexus, if you go to the settings and go to add contacts and then manage imported lists. So any list that you've imported will be here, and you just choose the one you want to cleanse. And you go up here and say purchase through Sales Nexus. I'm just going to cleanse the selected list, or you can choose the entire database if you want. And start cleansing, and then next, and it's going to tell you what it's going to cost. So you can see there, it's 2 cents an email is what we're charging right now. The retail cost is 4 cents. That's what we charge. Some are more, some others charge more. But through January, because we just introduced this actually in the end of December, we're keeping it half price. So if you want to do some cleansing in Sales Nexus, now's the time. In February, it's going to go up to 4 cents. So that's how you cleanse your list. So what's going to happen when you do that is everyone that doesn't pass, going back to the slides, everyone that doesn't, come out as verified or at least catch all is going to be marked as what we call do not send in Sales Nexus. In other words, you won't be able to send to them anymore. So we're just taking care of the problem for you. Load in your list, cleanse it, and now feel safe to email all the other emails because they're legit, right? They've been checked. Let's see. Okay, so now let's talk about list building. So, at the end of the day, we at Sales Nexus have a different perspective on the concept of emailing cold lists than most people in the email marketing business. And that's because we've traditionally focused on sales teams. And, the very common scenario in the B2B sales world is, hey, I just hired a new sales guy that used to work for my competitor, and he's got all these customers on an Excel sheet or in his Outlook or whatever. I want to be able to have him send an email out saying, hey, I'm now at my new company, right? I mean, that makes sense. And those are real people that he's built relationships with. Why shouldn't you be able to do that? Some email services won't let you do that. They won't let you load in a list without first opting them in, right? So just to be sure everybody's clear, legally speaking, there's no issue with doing this. The law in the United States is a little different in Canada and in Europe, but in the United States, the law says all you're required to do is identify yourself clearly. Don't pretend to be somebody you're not, and give them an easy way to opt out. That's all. So we make sure that all of that's true. We take care of that for you. So if you want to build a list, you can do it however you want. You can, it can be from your new sales guy that you hired. You could join your local trade association, in your industry, and get their membership list and load it into the system. And you just want to make sure and cleanse it first, because you cannot be sure that just because the Association of General Contractors or whatever is using it as their membership list, you can't be sure that all those email addresses are accurate, and you could get yourself in trouble if you don't cleanse it first. So you want to cleanse and validate those lists, and you can use these tools to where you have somebody's name and company name maybe, and maybe their email address, but you don't have their phone number. They can infill data that you're missing. So they could take a name and a company and give you an email, or take a email address and give you a name and a company and a phone number. So there's a lot of capabilities there that make it worth working with a list vendor, even if you're not just trying to buy big lists, right? This lookalikes concept is really, really powerful. So I'm going to show you that in a minute, where we're going to take a list of your best customers and put it into the tool and say, who else do you have in your database that's kind of similar, looks the same industry, same title, same revenue, same number of employees, same region, all of those things. Let's see, Kevin's asking a question here. Yeah, okay, so that's kind of inside baseball on Sales Nexus. You can, so sometimes your emails will bounce, but you can call the customer up and say, hey, your emails are bouncing, what's going on? And he'll say, no, that's the correct address, right? Well, it may be related to you're having some kind of a spam issue or a reputation issue. And some mail servers will block you and basically send us or your email service provider, they'll send them the signal that this is a bad email address. Don't send here anymore, when it really is. So there's a way to reset that in Sales Nexus just by editing the email. So you can do that on a one customer at a time basis. However, be careful with that, because again, if you keep sending to a bad email address, you're going to cause yourself a problem. Okay, so the idea with this lookalike thing is, like, I have this list, right? Just names and emails, and not very many companies or anything, no phone numbers. You know, this is the kind of thing typically we hire a new sales guy and he hasn't been doing a very good job of being real thorough with all the data. This is what you get, right? So what we want to do is get the titles and the company names and the phone numbers and their mailing addresses and all the other stuff that you would like to have about these customers, right? You want to turn that list into this, right? Titles, companies, LinkedIn lists, or I'm sorry, LinkedIn links, phone numbers, what is the email valid or not? All of that, right? Well, you can do that with the tool that we use. Let me get in there. It's called Ramped Up, and I'll just show you real quickly some of the things that it does that are most powerful. You can see, in fact, Kevin, here's your list that I just ran through Ramped Up for you. And what we did was we took Kevin's list of his best customers, put them in the system, and it comes back and it gives me this. And it tells me, you know, what titles are represented in that list and what sizes of companies and what industries and all of that, right? And then I go here and I say, find lookalike contacts. So find other people like this. And watch this. So this is the really cool part. 17,000 people in the Ramped Up database with email addresses and phone numbers and LinkedIn profiles and everything that fit right in the same box as all of Kevin's ideal customers. Wow. So that's a great way to build your list up and really stay focused, right? So you're still going to have good engagement because these are people that fit the exact same criteria, right? That's one of the key details here. So I'll show you real quickly, just if you don't already have a list, or you're maybe trying to target some new market that you're not already in, you can, just start your own search and come in and say, I'm looking for owners, and I won't worry about the industry of maybe companies with 200, 500 employees in Ohio, right? And you can see there's a lot of other criteria you can play around with here, SIC codes and titles and revenue and et cetera. And then I hit search, and there's 818 owners of companies in that little employee range right there in Ohio. And I hit export, and it's going to give me that list with the email addresses and so on that you can load into Sales Nexus. And then you want to cleanse it first and then go ahead and email. So that's a great way to build a list. We've been doing this for 20 years, and I've worked with all the different, the big names like ZoomInfo and Info USA and all the mom and pops and everybody that's in the list business. And the reason we work with Ramped Up is because what they're doing, the reason they have a LinkedIn profile for every contact is that they're validating the data through LinkedIn. And they know when you change your title in LinkedIn or the company you worked at in LinkedIn, that's a trigger to them. Hey, we should validate the data again because things may have changed for this person. So they're proactively keeping their database up to date. And that makes all the difference in the world. That's why we feel safe encouraging you to do this, Okay. All right. So now engagement is one of the newest things that you're seeing Google and Outlook and the other spam filters really use to put your email either in the inbox or in the junk folder. And so you really need to pay attention to it. It's one of the biggest mistakes we see our customers making. When I say that, what I mean is the people that are sending a lot of emails and are kind of, intermediate or expert level email marketers, they don't know that this is a problem, right? So it's kind of a new thing that you need to keep your eye on. What's happening is they are looking at, as I mentioned earlier, the open and click rate for each individual recipient, right? In other words, they know that I have never opened any of your emails, but Bo Beth on our team, he opens all of them, right? Well, guess what's going to start happening? Number one, your emails to me start going to the junk folder. And eventually, if you keep sending me and a lot of other people that never open your emails over and over and over again, Bo Beth is going to stop seeing your emails too. I hope that makes sense. But essentially what they're doing is they're looking at, do you continue to send email to people that aren't engaging with your emails at all? Because if you are doing that, it means you're not paying attention, number one, and number two, that means that you're a marketer or what they would consider a spammer, right? So you want to watch that. You want to, here's a little graph I created to just look at our database and see, when, of all the people in the database, when's the last time they opened or clicked on an email? So in other words, I can see that going back to April of last year, there's over 9,000 people that we've continued to email that was the last time they opened or clicked on anything. So what we need to do is we need to go into our database and take those people off the list, because by continuing to send to them, we are damaging our reputation. That's the important point. You literally are going to have to start aging people off of your list, if that's the right way to say it. I would say depends on the industry and who you're emailing and everything, but if it's been a year or more, if you've been consistently sending to them and it's been a year or more and they haven't opened or clicked on anything, you should literally stop sending to them. And it will improve your results with everyone else. I hope that's making sense. So there's ways you can do that in Sales Nexus by, same way I just did here. I'm not going to get into how to build that dashboard or anything like that, but we can definitely help you with that if you need help. So the tough part that most people have a lot of heartburn on that with is, well, gosh, if my list was only, 30 or 40,000 people, and now, you're sitting here telling me you got to take 20,000 off your list, man, that's going to hurt. That's true. However, number one, what we've seen is that it actually won't hurt. It's the other 10,000 are the ones that are actually opening and clicking and responding to your emails anyway. And once you take all these sort of dead ones off the list, your results with those 10,000 will improve. And then finally, we can use something like Ramped Up to add, a new 10 or 20,000 to your list. Yeah, Rebecca's asking a really good question. Do you recommend a re-engagement campaign before purging the list? That's a great question, Rebecca. I can tell that you're an expert. Thank you. The answer is yes. That's a great idea. You've been sending to them anyway, right? So it doesn't hurt to send them one last email. But make it kind of overt, right? Maybe something like, hey, we noticed you haven't been paying attention lately. Should we keep emailing you? You know, something like that. But yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, now let's talk about automating all this, right? That's really the name of the game here. If you think about it, if we can manage our reputation so that we're not ending up in the junk folder and our emails are going to the inbox, and we can come up with strategies to keep building a bigger and bigger list, well, that's the name of the game, right? That's money in the bank. Except somebody's got to sit there and execute all these campaigns all the time, right? And that can start to become pretty overwhelming. Obviously, with Sales Nexus, we try to help with that. But you can automate a lot of it so that it's literally not work. So I want to talk about, you know, what makes sense when you're doing that as well, because I see a lot of people sort of learning things the hard way in that area. So I was Googling, you know, graphics about drip campaigns, and this one came up, and it really got my attention because I think this is absolutely the wrong way to do it. And it's also what I see a lot of people doing. So white paper, video overview, ebook, that's great, right? You're sending at the top of your funnel, you know, a cold list, unengaged prospects, let's say. You're sending them useful content, things they can use and benefit from, you know, whether or not they do business with you. So you're branding yourself and you're becoming a trusted resource. That's really the key in your first email engagements with people, right? But then you don't switch to product demo unless they've told you something, they've done something that indicates they want a demo, right? What you're doing here is great. The first 3 emails, tremendous, because you're saying, hey, we respect you as an individual and we're trying to provide you with helpful, useful stuff. And then all of a sudden you're switching gears to, hey, look at me, right? No, let's keep the conversation on the customer and wait for them to tell you they're ready to learn about you. That's the name of the game in terms of not wearing out your list and having your opt-out rate go too high, right? Or get marked as spam and so on. So I think it's more useful to think of it more as a funnel with layers in it, right? So this is a different graphic I found, you know, attention, interest, desire, and action. Those are pretty good words for the different layers in the funnel. When I have a cold list, my number one goal is just, can I get you to pay any attention to me at all, right? That's it. And that's why that helpful content is useful at that layer, right? Now, I've got you paying attention. Now I want you to show some interest in my brand, my solution, right? Now I've got you showing some interest. Are you starting to show signs that you actually have a desire to make a purchase, right? And then once you do, can I get you to actually put your credit card in the machine, right? So you want campaigns for each of those layers, but they're not all one campaign. In other words, if you put me on your list and I don't pay any attention to your top layer, you don't automatically put me down on your interest layer. That's going to get me to unsubscribe because I don't even know who you are, right? So it should be more like this. Oh, sorry. This is kind of the goal, right? Ultimately, if you're in the B2B world, especially, you want to be setting appointments with emails, right? You want them getting your email and being able to schedule an appointment with your salesperson. And that definitely can be done. This is using like a Calendly service, which you can put in your emails, you know. And the way you do that is like this. So here's your attention, right? Your top layer in the funnel, your cold emails, white papers, case studies, DIY tips, webinar invites, useful content. You're not asking them to make any commitment to you, the brand, the company, right? And they just stay on that loop. Maybe you're changing the content. Maybe you're adding new pieces to the drip campaign. Maybe you're just changing the subject line sometimes is good enough, right? And then when they click, right, they open your email, they read it, and they click the link. That's a pretty strong sign, right? Because we're talking about unsolicited email here that they didn't ask for, right? So when they click that, that's a pretty strong sign. So then you switch them to the next layer in the funnel. And maybe you ask them for a meeting invite. You send them that Calendly link like we just looked at, right? Maybe now you send them your promo video, your demo video. Maybe you're getting more into, hey, if you're using this competitor, here's how we measure up against them, right? And maybe you're repeating yourself a little bit with the meeting invites. But this could be, again, just nothing but automated emails. No human interaction going on with this so far. We're 2 layers into the funnel. Now they click that one of these emails, right? Now they go down to your sort of interest or desire level, I guess. And maybe that campaign has calls in it. It's not just emails. Could be any combination, right? But so you're just nurturing them down through the funnel, but you're making sure that they're telling you they're ready to go down to the next layer in the funnel, right? That's really the key in my view. This goes back to list building. If you think about, we're talking about a 1 to 2% click rate a lot of times. Well, to get somebody 3 layers deep in your funnel, you're going to have a pretty darn big list. This isn't going to work if you've got 500 people on your list. You need 5,000, 50,000, But, maybe you can manage 2 levels with a smaller list. Okay, so let me show you that in action. If I go to my campaigns here first in Sales Nexus, for those of you who are using Sales Nexus, I'll just show you one of the things that people almost never realize is there, but it's really super powerful, is in my campaign. This is my lead nurturing campaign, is my top level, sort of cold emails, right? Right here, you see the second tier campaign. This is how I tell the system, if anybody gets any of these 10 emails I got here that go out in that top layer, I automatically, when they click on one of these emails and show interest, they're raising their hand, I want to switch them to this lead nurture L2 or level 2 campaign. So that just now automatically they're going to switch. So all you got to do is put the people on that top layer, and now the system's automatically moving them down through the system. You see how that can work? And I'll show you real quick the level 2. This one here is that level 2. And you can see in this case what we did, it's first the salesperson is going to call them. Hey, we noticed you clicked on, our case study or whatever. And then they're going to continue to get more emails. But the email content has changed now. It's a little more, hey, we know we think you might have a problem we can solve. Let's get together. I hope that's making sense to everybody. If anybody has any questions about that, let me know. Now, I'm going to show you how, when you get into a sales situation where there's you're not just sending people to a purchase page on your website. It's not completely automated, right? You got people talking to people. It starts getting complicated to manage this kind of multi-layer funnel, right? Because as soon as the salespeople get involved, they start learning things about the customers that somehow has to affect which campaign they're getting on, right? And that can be a little challenging, as I'm sure anybody that's ever managed a salesperson can attest to. So what you want to do is you create an automation. So let me just show you one here in the interest of time. basically what you're saying is when a lead comes into the site, if it's from my website, automatically put them on this campaign, right? So now you can connect Sales Nexus to your website. The leads come in and they're automatically on that campaign. And this campaign could be linked to a second tier campaign. So those people that click on one of these emails go to the second tier campaign, right? But then if we go back to that again, we'll look at a couple of different ones that are more to the point. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. So now your salesperson gets them on the phone and you've got a field in there for status or something, right? And they mark them as, I set an appointment or, different statuses that could come out of this. If they're not interested, you want that to trigger a different campaign, just sort of a cold nurturing campaign to put them back on that top of the funnel level 1 campaign. And if they're a hot opportunity, maybe you have a special campaign that makes sure that you're going to call them and the CEO reaches out to them or whatever, right? So every one of those scenarios can be automated. So the right emails are going out to everybody, and all the salesperson has to do is update this call status field when they hang up the phone, and boom, the right campaign gets triggered. So you want to use that second tier campaign capability and these automation plans, and you can really start to automate everything. And then the only thing you have to worry about is somebody's actually got to make the calls to the extent that you're doing that. Okay. Now, I know we're running a little bit long, but we're close to the end. Don't worry. So wanted to make sure everybody knows, number one, we do provide consulting along these lines. So if you need help with designing your emails or just coming up with a campaign strategy in the first place, with building the list and targeting the right people, if you want to create a multi-tier funnel system like we just talked about that's automatically setting appointments for your team, we can help you with that. So we have some different packages to fit all kinds of different budgets. So if you're interested in that, please let us know. Including, I should mention, if you're having some reputation issues, some delivery issues, we can help you with that as well. All right, so what do we do next? If you're interested in checking out Ramped Up and building your list or doing the lookalikes or just appending phone numbers and emails to lists you already have, if you're not a Sales Nexus customer, go start a free trial of Sales Nexus now, and we're going to set you up with a Ramped Up free trial also, and we're going to automatically put 500 credits in there for you to go and download a list of leads that you want, that you select, with their email addresses and their phone numbers and their LinkedIn profiles like we just looked at. So 500 free contacts from Ramped Up when you start your free trial of Sales Nexus. So go do that now. If you're already a Sales Nexus customer, don't worry about it. You can take advantage of the same thing. Just send an email to support@salesnexus.com and say something like, start my Ramped Up free trial, and we'll get it started for you, and you'll get an email and you'll be in business, and we'll put the 500 credits in there for you. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to start cleansing some of your lists, you can do that in Sales Nexus, and through the end of January, it's half price. It's 2 cents per email instead of 4 cents. And then if you want to talk about us helping you, you can schedule a free consultation with me. You'll get this link in the follow-up email that'll go out tomorrow. And let's see, I think also I can do that. Yeah, I'm putting it here. Hopefully you guys see that now. But like I say, you'll get that email tomorrow with that link. Let's see. Okay, I'll Feel free to answer or ask any other questions that you might have. I'm going to try and address a few that came in while I was going. There's a question about, what is an email campaign? In Sales Nexus, a campaign is anything from one email sent to some list of people to a series of 10 or 100 emails sent to some list or multiple lists of people. It's some other systems, they use different terminology, but in Sales Nexus, it can be an ongoing drip campaign, not just a single send. And then let's see, Rebecca, I think Joel asks, when you get lists from Ramped Up, do they need to be cleansed as well? And the answer is yes. Yeah. I mean, Ramped Up is validating the addresses themselves so they are valid emails, but what they don't do is check for the spam traps and the complainers and all that, and it's well worth getting those off of your list. So it's, for 2 cents, it's well worth it. Let's see. Yeah, somebody, I think Jennifer was asking, some other providers also have cleansing built in. So yeah, your email provider may be able to help you with cleansing just the same way that we showed you. Sales Nexus can help with that. Let's see, Connie was asking about opt-outs and bounces. So you don't need to delete those from your database with Sales Nexus and really all the email senders. When somebody unsubscribes, what that does is it prevents you from sending email to them anymore, and also when they bounce. So even if, you're on my list of CEOs in Dallas, Texas, right? And I sent you an email and you opted out, right? And then next month I decide, well, I'm going to send another email to all my CEOs in Dallas, Texas. So you're on that list. Even though you put me on that campaign, that second campaign, Sales Nexus and other systems will not send that email. They're just going to skip over you because we already know that you've either opt out or bounce. So you can leave them in the database, and these still may be a useful contact for sales purposes or whatever. Let's see. Yeah, and there's several questions about getting the slides and all that. As I mentioned, everybody's going to get an email tomorrow with the recording of the presentation and all these links and everything. Okay. Let's see. I think that's it. Yeah, Kevin's asking for a list of all the error messages. Yeah, unfortunately, there's not. The problem is the mail servers themselves are not consistent in what they send. So one mail server sends this kind of message for this circumstance, and on a different mail server, the same circumstance generates a different kind of message. So that's why you pay us, because we worry about figuring out how to manage all that stuff. Let's see. Yeah, and Kevin's asking, what will it look like in Sales Nexus? So in Sales Nexus, it's limited information. It's going to tell you if it bounced or if they unsubscribed. It's not going to tell you any of the other stuff that may be present about why it bounced. 9 times out of 10, the reason it bounces, it's a bad email address. But it's not always. Really, you don't need to worry about it until you start seeing that people have a valid address are not getting your emails. Then we need to start looking at the details. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate everybody's time. I know we're a little bit over time, and I appreciate your patience with me. Start your free trial of Sales Nexus, or let us know if you want to get your Ramped Up free trial started, and we'll get you your 500 free credits. we'll look forward to talking to some of you one-on-one, and we'll see if we can help you really boost your email results. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day, and you'll get an email from us tomorrow.